Step right up and welcome to Movie NP, the channel where I review movies, combine my years' experience and practice, and my love for movies to reveal to you the life hacks and the hidden symbolism in some of these gems. So what's Maui got cooking? That's right, tonight's review and analysis is Moana 2. So you're welcome. It's written and directed by David G. Derrick Jr., Jason Hand, and Dana Miller. It stars Alii Carvalho and Dwayne Johnson. The general description is the film is 1 hour 40 minutes long. It's rated G, carries an IMDb rating of 7.1 out of 10. It's currently available in theaters and on Fandango at home. So without further ado, let's get into the plot and the life hacks. Spoiler alert, after discovering a mysterious artifact, she receives a call from her wayfaring ancestor, Teu Tei Vasa, warning her about Nalo, a storm god who has it in for the mortals. Moana must journey to the far side of the ocean through sea monster-infested waters with an unlikely ragtag crew. She must reconnect the people who have been dispersed on the islands, lost across the ocean, or see the destruction of humanity. In other words, this is the plot of Battlestar Galactica, featuring Elon Musk, who plans to reconnect humanity across the stars. The film takes place 3 years after the original film. In the opening scene, we see Moana exploring a far-flung island looking for other humans. Up until now, she has found no one. Following a fortunate accident, she finds this mysterious artifact, which is a piece of pottery, a bowl of some type. On it is a mountain and some people below. After returning home, she learns the island is called Motu Fitu, that her ancestors were seeking. Soon after, she has a vision of Teu Tei Vasa, her wayfaring ancestor, who tells her she must find Motu Fitu to prevent her home island and ultimately the human race from desolation. Moana assembles a crew of some old friends and some new allies to find and restore Montefitu. Meanwhile, Maui is seeking Montefitu as well due to some previous encounters with Nalo. He's captured by Matangi, a vampire-like demigod who rules over a horde of bats. Matangi wants Maui to hand over Moana, but Maui's reluctant because he fears that this will lead to her death. On the high seas, Moana's crew encounters perilous obstacles. This includes an ambush by the Kokomora, a confrontation with a huge man-eating clam that ultimately leads to a run-in with Matangi. However, Matangi reveals to Moana that she is being held prisoner by Nalo, and without Moana's help, she will never be free. So after a catchy song and dance number, Matangi convinces Moana to trust her and tells her, quote unquote, there is always a way to get where you need to go. You just have to think differently. Following this, Moana accepts Matangi's help. Matangi frees Maui, Moana, and her crew and reveals to her a porthole that will lead them almost directly to Montefitu. Maui is shocked to learn that Moana is able to open this porthole that is supposed to be only being able to be opened by the gods. This is a foreshadow for later in the film. However, the crew's excitement quickly dwindles when Maui reveals to them that they have actually entered into Nalo's domain. Maui continues on and reveals to them that Nalo is protecting Montefitu in the center of his realm. The first sign something is wrong is when we discover that the ocean is no longer Moana's friend. The ocean no longer responds to her like it previously did. The second is as they approach Montefitu, the ocean becomes rougher and storms begin to develop. Then Nalo sends a welcoming party with just a few man-eating, hungry sea serpents. After defeating these sea serpents, they take refuge on a small island only to find that their boat has been damaged beyond repair secondary to this battle. But just as they think all is lost, they find the ancient remains of Teutei's long-lost canoe. Using these ancient remains, one of Moana's crew pulls a Mr. Scott, slaps the thing together, and repairs it. But as they continue their journey towards the island, the storms worsen, and Nalo decides to start throwing columns of lightning towards them. Around this point, Maui reveals to them that another challenge is that Nalo, to protect the island further, has sunk it below the waves, and the humans must reach it and touch its soil to break the curse. To do this, Maui must reach the island and pull it up out of the sea. So Maui comes up with a quick plan to fly ahead as a hawk, catch the island with his hook, and pull it above. However, upon attempting to do so, Maui's rope snaps, and the crew's boat takes significant damage from the lightning. The crew then retreats, but Moana makes an interesting observation that Nalo seemed to not care about Maui and ignored him almost completely and continued to attack them. So she comes up with this great idea that what she's going to do is use her and her crew as a decoy so Maui can push ahead and pull up the island. But how are they going to do so when the boat has already taken significant damage and clearly they cannot outrun Nalo's storms? Well, easy. Moana's boat-building friend decides to chop the mast and the sail of the ship down and fashion them into a kite to pull the ship along. Now, this is great because now they're using Nalo's force and storm against himself, because the kite is catching the winds from the storm and propelling the boat faster than it could before. Now, at first I thought this was a little far-fetched. I'd never seen anyone, particularly ancient times, using a kite to propel a boat. However, through investigation, it's discovered that the Polynesian people were very fascinated with kites. They were very skilled with kites, and they used them in many of their religious ceremonies. So it really is not a huge leap of logic here that in crisis someone might think, let's turn this sail into a kite. So that's exactly what happened here. At the end of the day, the idea of turning the sail into a kite actually does hold water. Pun intended. Well, folks, the plan works. Well, at least initially. They're now effortlessly able to avoid Nalo's storms and lightnings. Maui makes it past him and to the island and begins to pull it up. But the movement of the island must have tipped Nalo off that something is wrong. As Maui continues to pull up the island, he is struck by lightning, which causes his tattoos to evaporate and disappear. This strips him of his powers as a demigod, and just like Superman 2, it returns him to being a mere mortal. But again, just as we think all is lost, Moana looks below the water and sees the peak of the island's mountain below. She reflects back on what Matangi told her, stating, "There is always a way to get where you need to go. You just have to think differently." So with this, Moana throws all caution to the wind, dives beneath the waves, and begins to swim as quickly as she can toward the peak of the mountain. As she is doing so, we see Nalo throw a lightning bolt at her that is quickly approaching her from behind. Moana successfully swims to the peak, reaches her hand out, and touches the ground. This immediately breaks the curse, the storms cease, and the skies begin to clear. However, the lightning has already been left out of the bottle, and just as she touches the island, the lightning strikes her from behind. The lightning causes a deadly blow. Maui dives under the waves to try to save her, but he is powerless. Moments later, Te'i Vasa appears, and quickly following is many of her ancestors. Lastly, her grandmother shows up. With the power of her ancestors, Moana is resurrected, but this is not all. you see a tattoo of a wayfarer form on her left forearm. This not only symbolizes her transition to becoming a master wayfarer, but she has transitioned herself into a demigod. Maui's hook is magically returned to him, and he uses it to pull up the island. In doing so, his tattoos are restored, and so is his powers as a demigod. Moments before the credit rolls, they discover petroglyphs on the island that shows a map of all the known islands of the world, with Motu-Fitu in the center. They sound a conch horn to search for other people, and moments later, other canoes begin to arrive with all sorts of different people aboard. We then cut to Moana returning home for a hero's welcome just before the credits roll. As an added bonus, please stick around. As it's become customary in Marvel films, there is a mid-credit scene. It occurs after the first song, so stick around. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to reveal it, but it is a must-see. Finish the end. The sequel spans on the themes of courage, leadership, and the enduring bond of humanity and nature, and unfortunately, what happens when humanity and nature are not in alignment. I would give this film 2 toilet seats up. I know fans of the original are going to love it. Is it as good as the original? I don't know. Here's what I do feel, though. The film is more focused on Moana this time around, which takes a more serious approach than it does a comedic approach, which I think is wonderful because it pushes the boundaries of what we need more of today for young girls and young women is female empowerment and female heroes. There is a classic bit that had me laughing, which is a classic bit of breaking the fourth wall. Maui's having a discussion with Moana and calls her a princess. She responds, "I'm no princess." Maui responds by turning, looking directly at the camera, and says, "There's a lot of people that think that you are." Plus, if there was any question that this is a Disney film, well, this is cleared up about a quarter of the way through, where there is a firework-like display in the sky. That's about in every Disney film that you see nowadays. So let's get into the success and life hack tips. But before I do, I got to give you my disclaimer. What we're about to discuss is for general purposes only. This is not intended to diagnose or cure anybody's conditions. Talk to your healthcare provider. Only you and your healthcare provider can choose the best course of action for you. Number 10, listen to your inner calling. The lesson here is Moana answers the calling from her ancestors, trusting her intuition to embark on a challenging journey. The hack here is pay attention to your instincts and your gut feelings. Your inner voice will often be your best guide in making important life decisions. Number 9, adapt to change. The lesson here is Maui loses his godhood, but still continues on, adapts to change, and saves the day. The life hack here is be flexible when circumstances change and focus on what you can control, not on what you can't control. Always focus on what you can control, what you can change. Number 8, face fears to overcome obstacles. The lesson here is Moana is initially reluctant to leave her home and family, but ultimately Moana dives into dangerous waters and confronts the storm god Nalo to restore the balance between humanity and nature. The hack here is confront challenges head on rather than avoiding them. Growth only occurs by stepping outside of your comfort zone. I've discussed this before in 1 or 2 of my other videos. My philosophy is that life is like that bump a mole game. You are the mole, life is the mallet. The mallet's job is to beat you down. Your job is to keep your head up outside of the hole. It's not about if you get hit or not. I guarantee you're going to get hit. The name of the game is to have the courage or stupidity to keep sticking your head up out of the hole, no matter how many times you get whacked. The winner of the game is the one who keeps their head up out of the hole as many times as possible. In other words, persistence, persistence, persistence. I believe one of the greatest movie quotes of all time is from the movie Goodfellas. At one point, Ray Liotta states, "And every once in a while, I have to take a beating, but by the time, I don't care." The way I saw it, everybody takes a beating sometime. The point is we all take a beating sometime. It's not about the beating; it's how you handle the beating. Pick yourself up, brush yourself off, and keep on moving forward. Number 7, leverage ancestral knowledge. The hack here is to learn from the experiences of your elders, your mentors, and historic figures to help navigate your waters. Unfortunately, our society has shifted. We no longer seem to value our elders or a lot of the history. It seems like because of their age, we've discounted their worth, where meanwhile, they are a treasure trove of information and experience. The best part is 95% of the time, they are more than happy to help or provide some information. All you need to do is ask. And lastly, don't forget, history repeats itself. It's always good, even if you're not crazy interested in history, it's always good to just have a little bit of interest, watch a couple documentaries, read a couple things, because history repeats itself. In fact, I just recently watched this video, this little documentary on YouTube by a gentleman named Stephen Antonioni. I'll post the link below. In short, what he suggests is that as a species, we have amnesia. We forget our history. As a result, what occurs is about every 30 years, there's a cyclic system that we have war, we have famine, we have financial ruin, all because we forget our history. What occurs is that one generation who's experienced all this firsthand and knows all the dangers and how to navigate around them, they start to die out. The new generation doesn't know all of this, or maybe they've read it, but it looks just like distant ancient history. And so it just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. So if we learn from our history a little bit more, we could stop some of these things, and maybe I could get my damn flying car I was promised, right? Right? All right. Thanks. 6, embrace leadership. The lesson here is Moana takes charge of the mission, demonstrating confidence and inspiring her team to follow her. The hack here is take initiative when needed and lead by example to earn trust and respect. Number 5, turn enemies into allies. Lesson here is Moana wins over Mantangi, a former enforcer for Nalo, who becomes a key ally in the mission. The hack here is approach conflict with empathy and seek to understand other people's perspectives to create opportunities for collaboration. Here's another little hack. If there's someone that you think doesn't like you, one way you can kind of parlay that is to ask them to borrow something of theirs. This could be as simple as a book in their office. There's 100 things I can think of. But in short, this taps into an interesting little psychological phenomenon that it makes it very difficult to dislike somebody that you have given your personal belongings to. So what this does is asking to borrow something from them and them lending it to you almost instantaneously increases your value in their mind. Number 4, celebrate progress, not just the destination. The lesson here is that the crew faces many small victories during their journey, which motivates them to keep going. The hack here is acknowledge and celebrate those many milestones because they build momentum to reaching your bigger goals. I've spoken about this many times before, but this is a key teaching in Alcohol Anonymous. Sometimes we have to take it second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour. It can lead to another second from not having a drink, another minute from not having a drink, or maybe that's another minute from resisting eating that second piece of pie, or another hour's worth of intermittent fasting that you've been trying to do. Whatever it is, you have to take things, you got to break things down into smaller and smaller steps. So break things down into those little bits, celebrate those little moments of success, and before you know it, you're going to achieve your goal. Number 3 is lead with purpose. The lesson here is Moana inspired her crew with her vision and determination. Being clear about your goals can motivate not only yourself, but also those who follow your lead. The hack here is, as a leader, you must communicate your goals and vision to your team clearly. This is very critical. All too often, an organization's goals and mission statements are nothing more than some artwork on a wall. Nobody really cares. In fact, I guarantee most of your team members don't even know what they are. And they probably don't care because there is no personal engagement, there's no emotion attached to them, and it's not relevant to them. Worse is that meetings are often spent conveying information to employees that the top brass think is important, but no one cares. In fact, most people probably go to meetings just to avoid getting fired. What's more important is that as a leader, you need to build trust and motivation with your team. One leader that was naturally good at this was Walt Disney. So when he wanted to develop Snow White, the very first featured length animated film in history, everybody said this couldn't be done. So what he did was he invited his whole crew out to dinner, bought them dinner, and then he brought them back to the studio. He had storyboards made up. He acted out all these parts. And just the fact that he did that, it really engaged his crew, it motivated them, and it made what people believed to be the impossible suddenly seem possible. And it was, and they did it. And it was a huge success. Matter of fact, the money that came from Snow White ended up fueling the Walt Disney Corporation for many, many, many years to come, and gave them the funds to build Disneyland. And Walt didn't just use this with his employees. He used this with the bankers and creditors. He used this to convince lawmakers and, like I said, the creditors to give him loans. He was a master at this, master storyteller. Number 2 is harness new strengths. The lesson here is Moana becomes a demigod, symbolizing her growth and readiness to embrace a larger role. One of the best pieces of advice and axioms out there is fake it till you make it. Remember, life is a lifelong educational journey. Never stop learning, always take risks, and welcome new challenges. And last but not least, number 1, build a strong team. Lesson here is Moana assembles a crew of loyal and skilled allies, including Maui and the new seafarers, to face overwhelming challenges. You'll see in the film she picks these people out for a reason. And the hack here is surround yourself with people who complement your strengths and share your vision. A poor leader will fear people who are smarter or more skilled than they are. They feel jealous or even worse, threatened by them. One key success factor here, and what a good leader does, is support and hire individuals that have strong skills and strengths, particularly those that might have strength in an area that you don't. Well, that's it for today, folks. Please click like and subscribe and share with a friend. Comment below your thoughts. Let me know what you're struggling with, if there's something I can help you out with, if there's a film that you'd like me to review. Join me next week for another exciting adventure. Pleasant nightmares, and be well. Good night.